Welcome to Cults and Secret Societies. I'm your host, Ben Carter. In a nondescript suburb of San Diego, California, in 1997, 39 people made a pact. A pact that would lead them to their deaths in a hauntingly coordinated act of mass suicide. But this was no ordinary pact. These 39 individuals believed they were about to shed their human bodies, which they referred to as vehicles, to ascend to a higher plane of existence aboard an extraterrestrial spaceship. They believed they were about to join an advanced alien civilization, leaving behind the earthly realm for a life beyond the stars. This was the Heaven's Gate cult. Their leader, a man named Marshall Applewhite, was a compelling and charismatic figure, captivating those he met with his certainty and earnestness. He claimed to be in contact with extraterrestrial beings and believed he was a reincarnation of Jesus Christ. He preached a doctrine of self-denial, asceticism, and the renunciation of all earthly ties. He promised his followers a path to salvation, a way out of the perceived corruption and decay of the world. And for those who were lost, disillusioned, or simply seeking something beyond the mundane, his promises held a potent allure. So, why did these 39 people follow him? Why did they believe in his vision of alien salvation? To understand, we must delve deep into the psyche of the cult and its enigmatic leader. We must explore the societal conditions that made such a belief system appealing. And we must grapple with the unsettling reality that, even in our rational age, the call of the unknown, the promise of a cosmic destiny, can still lead people down a path of self-destruction. As we journey through the perplexing saga of the Heaven's Gate cult, we'll explore the power of belief, the allure of charismatic leaders, and the vulnerability of those seeking meaning in a complex and often confusing world. We'll examine the messages left behind by the cult members and the chillingly clinical manner in which they planned and executed their mass suicide. This is not a story for the faint of heart. It is a tale that challenges our understanding of belief and identity, forcing us to confront the darkest corners of the human psyche. It is a journey into the heart of a cult, an exploration of how a belief in extraterrestrial salvation can lead to the ultimate human tragedy. But it is also a story of how people, in their search for meaning and purpose, can be led astray by charismatic leaders who promise them a path to salvation, even if that path leads to death. To understand the Heaven's Gate cult, we need to journey back to the early 1970s. This was a time of social unrest, cultural upheaval, and spiritual searching. The fabric of American society was being challenged and transformed by forces such as the civil rights movement, the feminist movement, and the anti-war protests. The traditional religious institutions were also facing scrutiny and skepticism. Many people were disillusioned with established religions and were seeking new spiritual paths, often drawing from Eastern philosophies, New Age mysticism, and burgeoning interest in extraterrestrial life. In this turbulent time, two figures emerged who would go on to found the Heaven's Gate cult: Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles. In 1972, Applewhite was a music professor in Houston, Texas, who had recently undergone a near-death experience during heart surgery. This experience had a profound effect on him, leading him to believe he had been chosen for a special divine purpose. Bonnie Nettles was a nurse with a deep interest in biblical prophecy, astrology, and psychic phenomena. She believed she had a psychic connection with a monk from the 15th century who imparted spiritual knowledge to her. When Applewhite and Nettles met, they felt an immediate spiritual connection. They believed they were the two witnesses mentioned in the Book of Revelation, who would be granted prophetic powers in the end times. Together they set out on a spiritual quest, traveling across the U.S., studying various religious and philosophical texts, and developing their own unique belief system. They preached that the Earth was about to be recycled, wiped clean, and that the only chance for survival was to leave the planet. They believed they were in contact with extraterrestrials who would provide a spaceship to take them to a new, superior plane of existence. Applewhite and Nettles began recruiting followers, attracting those who were disillusioned with society or traditional religion and who found their message of alien salvation appealing. This was the beginning of the Heaven's Gate cult, a group that would remain largely secretive and insular for the next 2 decades, until their shocking mass suicide made headlines around the world. Applewhite and Nettles, or Do and Ty as they preferred to be called, were charismatic figures. They were able to use the social and spiritual unrest of the time to their advantage, providing answers and a sense of purpose to those who felt lost or disillusioned. Their message resonated with individuals seeking meaning and spiritual fulfillment outside of the traditional paths. So, in the midst of the societal turbulence and spiritual searching of the 1970s, the Heaven's Gate cult was born. It was a product of its time, reflecting the fears, hopes, and uncertainties of a society in flux. It was a story of charismatic leaders and vulnerable followers, of alien salvation and human tragedy. And as we delve deeper into their beliefs, we'll see how this unique blend of New Age spirituality, biblical prophecy, and UFO mythology led 39 people to their tragic end. The core of Heaven's Gate's doctrine was a blend of Christian millenarianism, New Age philosophies, and science fiction. Do and Ty interpreted the Bible through the lens of extraterrestrial life, claiming that they were the 2 witnesses prophesied in the book of Revelation. They also professed that God was an alien, and that all humans were capable of evolving into a higher form of life, transcending their physical bodies to become celestial beings. The belief system they propagated was deeply rooted in the idea of the next level, a place beyond human comprehension, a type of heaven that was physically located in outer space. They preached that the Earth was soon to be wiped clean, recycled, and that the only chance at survival was to depart the planet before this cataclysm. The means of this departure, they claimed, would be a spaceship. Do and Ty didn't just preach this belief system, they lived it, leading a life of asceticism, celibacy, and strict discipline. Their lifestyle mirrored their teachings about the need to shed all human-like characteristics, emotions, and desires in order to ascend to the next level. They were said to have even undergone voluntary castration in their quest for androgyny, convinced that gender was a human construct and had no place in their celestial future. They shared their doctrine with their followers through a series of teachings called the Class. These sessions, often lasting for hours, were a mix of lectures, readings, and discussions. They also made use of a series of videos in which Do and T expounded on their beliefs, prophecies, and interpretations of biblical texts. They even encouraged followers to sever ties with their families and give up their material possessions, further solidifying the group's insular nature and increasing their reliance on the leaders. While the beliefs of Heaven's Gate might seem extreme or even bizarre to outsiders, it's essential to remember that for the members, these ideas provided a sense of purpose, a roadmap to salvation that they were willing to follow to the end. The leaders, Do and Ty, were not just charismatic figures. They were prophets, teachers, and guides leading their followers on a path to what they believed was a higher existence. The tragic end of the Heaven's Gate cult serves as a stark reminder of the power of belief and the lengths to which people will go in search of spiritual fulfillment. Even in the face of death, the members held steadfast to their faith in the teachings of Do and Ti, a faith that ultimately led them on a journey not to the stars, but to their untimely demise. In the wake of the Heaven's Gate mass suicide, a number of conspiracy theories emerged, weaving intricate webs of speculation surrounding the group's beliefs, actions, and ultimate demise. Most of these theories focus on the hidden agendas of the group's leaders, their alleged secret ties with powerful institutions, and the potential manipulation of the group's followers. One of the most prevalent theories centers around the idea that Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles were not just spiritual leaders, but were agents working on behalf of a covert government project. Theorists suggest that Heaven's Gate was a psychological experiment orchestrated by the government to test the boundaries of mind control. The followers, under this theory, were not just believers in a New Age religion, but subjects in an experiment to explore how far human belief could be manipulated. Another theory posits that the group was connected to the secret society known as the Illuminati. It's suggested that the leaders of Heaven's Gate had ties to this clandestine group and were carrying out their plans for a new world order. The mass suicide, according to this theory, was a ritual sacrifice orchestrated by the Illuminati. The group's focus on extraterrestrial life and ascension to a higher plane of existence, some suggest, aligns with the Illuminati's alleged interest in ancient astronaut theory and the harnessing of otherworldly powers. There are also theories that link Heaven's Gate to the UFO phenomenon and the idea of a government cover-up of extraterrestrial life. The group's belief in an impending Earth's recycling and salvation through a spaceship were seen by some as revealing hidden truths about the existence of aliens. They argue that Applewhite and Nettles were privy to classified information about extraterrestrial life, and the mass suicide was an effort to escape a coming global catastrophe known only to a few. Lastly, there are those who argue that the Heaven's Gate group was not a cult at all, but a front for a more sinister organization. This theory suggests that the group's public image and religious teachings were merely a facade, hiding dark and dangerous activities. Some even speculate that the mass suicide was not voluntary, but a mass murder carried out by the group's secretive puppet masters. However, it's crucial to note that these theories, while fascinating, lack concrete evidence and are largely speculative. They serve as a testament to the human need for answers in the face of tragedy and the enduring allure of hidden knowledge in our quest to make sense of the incomprehensible. The true story of Heaven's Gate, both in life and in death, may be even stranger than the conspiracy theories that surround it. The Heaven's Gate group, like many other secretive and closed societies, had its own complex system of symbols, codes, and rituals. These elements served not only to create a sense of unity among members, but also to maintain secrecy and power. In the case of Heaven's Gate, such symbolism was steeped in a unique blend of Christian eschatology, science fiction, and UFO mythology. The primary symbol associated with the group was the keyhole, an image that combined a key and a stylized human figure. It was used as the group's logo and appeared on their website and other materials. The keyhole symbol encapsulated the group's beliefs about unlocking the secrets of spiritual ascension and entering the next level, their term for a higher plane of existence. It signified the group's belief in a transformative journey, a process of moving from a human to a divine or extraterrestrial state. The group also used a coded language, employing specific terminologies to define their beliefs and practices. They referred to human bodies as vehicles, a term that emphasized their belief in the temporary and disposable nature of the physical body. The leaders, Applewhite and Nettles, were known as Do and Tie, names drawn from the musical scale, signifying harmony and progression. The act of suicide was referred to as exiting, a euphemistic term that underscored the group's belief in death as a transition to an elevated existence. Rituals were an essential part of the group's practices, often involving symbolic actions designed to prepare members for their journey to the next level. These included strict regimens of diet, exercise, and meditation, as well as the adoption of androgynous clothing and hairstyles. These practices were seen as ways to discard their human identity and prepare for a new, non-human existence. The most significant and tragic ritual, however, was the group's mass suicide in 1997. This event was meticulously planned and executed with chilling precision. The members consumed a lethal cocktail of phenobarbital and vodka, then lay down to die, their bodies covered by a purple shroud. Each member wore a pair of black Nike Decade shoes, and in their pockets were $5 bills and 3 quarters, believed to be fare for interstellar travel. These symbols, codes, and rituals were not merely eccentricities. They were the language and the lifeblood of the Heaven's Gate group, embodying their beliefs, shaping their practices, and defining their identity. They served as tools for indoctrination, maintaining secrecy, and exerting control over the members. In the end, they also became harbingers of a tragic event that shocked the world and marked a dark chapter in the history of New Age religious movements. Throughout its existence, Heaven's Gate was shrouded in secrecy, with its inner workings and rituals kept hidden from the public eye. Yet, a few voices emerged, attempting to expose the group's dangerous beliefs and practices. One such voice was that of Dick Jocelyn, a former member who left the cult in 1988, almost a decade before the tragic mass suicide. After leaving the group, Jocelyn became a vocal critic, revealing the group's oppressive control mechanisms and the leaders' manipulation of their followers. He described how members were expected to sever ties with their families, surrender their personal belongings, and submit to a life of strict discipline and isolation. He also revealed the group's belief in castration, a radical step some male members took to suppress their sexual urges and prepare for their supposed extraterrestrial existence. The cult, however, was not oblivious to these attempts at exposure. In response, they engaged in a campaign of deflection and disinformation. They presented their lifestyle as a choice, a path to spiritual evolution that required sacrifice and discipline. They downplayed the more extreme aspects of their beliefs, emphasizing instead their commitment to personal transformation and spiritual awakening. In addition to former members, families of those involved in the cult also tried to intervene. Many families hired deprogrammers in an attempt to rescue their loved ones from the grip of the cult. However, these efforts often proved futile, as the members had been deeply indoctrinated, viewing any attempt at intervention as persecution or a test of their faith. The cult's leaders, Applewhite and Nettles, also utilized threats to maintain their control and secrecy. They warned their followers of dire consequences if they chose to leave the group or reveal its secrets. They preached about the wrath of the extraterrestrial beings and the horrors of remaining trapped in a human existence. These threats, combined with the promise of a higher existence, kept many members loyal and silent. Despite these attempts at exposure and intervention, Heaven's Gate remained largely unchallenged until the tragic events of 1997. The reality of the group's dangerous beliefs was finally laid bare, but it was too late for the 39 people who had lost their lives in pursuit of a supposed alien salvation. At the heart of Heaven's Gate's teachings was the promise of a life beyond the human existence. To understand why 39 people were willing to die for this belief, we must delve into the esoteric philosophy that underpinned the cult's doctrine. Heaven's Gate was rooted in a blend of Christian theology, New Age spirituality, and science fiction. The group believed that human beings were merely vehicles, temporary vessels for the soul. The soul, in their belief, was something akin to a divine spark, a piece of the cosmic divine that was trapped in the human body. The ultimate goal of each member was to evolve beyond their human limitations, shedding their earthly bodies to ascend to a higher plane of existence. The group viewed the physical world as corrupt and tainted. Their teachings emphasized the concept of renunciation, urging members to abandon worldly desires and attachments. This, they believed, was necessary to prepare the soul for its journey to the next level, a term used to describe their version of the afterlife. In the cosmic hierarchy of Heaven's Gate, humanity was at the bottom rung. Above them were the next-level beings, highly evolved entities who had transcended their physical forms. These beings were described as pure, genderless, and devoid of human emotions. They were seen as the epitome of spiritual evolution, the ultimate goal of every member's journey. Applewhite and Nettles, the leaders of the cult, positioned themselves as the mediators between the human world and the next level. They claimed to be the incarnations of two such higher beings, sent to Earth to guide the members in their spiritual evolution. They were often referred to as the Two, a nod to their supposed divine authority. The most significant aspect of Heaven's Gate's belief system was the concept of the evolutionary level above human, also known as Tila. This referred to the transformation process from human to a next-level being. The group believed that Earth was on the brink of being recycled, cleansed, and started afresh. Those who evolved to Tela would be spared, taken aboard a spaceship to a new world. Those who failed to evolve would perish in the impending apocalypse. The cult's teachings provided a compelling narrative for those who felt disillusioned with their earthly existence. It offered a sense of purpose and a promise of a better life beyond the confines of the human form. It is this profound belief in the promise of a divine cosmic salvation that drove the members of Heaven's Gate to their tragic end. In the aftermath of Heaven's Gate, the echoes of their belief system and their tragic end have permeated aspects of popular culture, media, and even politics. The group's unique blend of spirituality and science fiction has been often referenced in movies, music, and literature, demonstrating the enduring fascination with this tragic event. Several noteworthy films and TV shows have explored themes that echo the Heaven's Gate narrative. For instance, the popular television series The X-Files has an episode titled Gender Bender, which features a cult with beliefs strikingly similar to those of Heaven's Gate. The cult's members are portrayed as androgynous beings who believe in ascension to a higher plane of existence. The film Colonia, starring Emma Watson, also deals with a woman infiltrating a cult with an apocalyptic belief system. Popular music has also seen references to Heaven's Gate. The heavy metal band, Iron Maiden, released a song called Heaven Can Wait in 1986, a decade before the mass suicide. While the song doesn't directly reference the cult, it deals with themes of death, afterlife, and salvation, elements that clearly resonate with the Heaven's Gate narrative. In the realm of literature, the science fiction genre has often incorporated elements reminiscent of Heaven's Gate's beliefs. Themes of alien salvation, transcending the human form, and escaping an impending apocalypse are prevalent in many works. Notably, the novel Under the Skin by Michel Faber explores the concept of aliens among us, a key tenet of Heaven's Gate's teachings. Beyond pop culture, the group's impact can also be traced in our political landscape. The cult's tragic end intensified the scrutiny on religious groups and cults, leading to stricter regulations and oversight. This was primarily driven by public concern over the potential for manipulation and abuse within such groups. The Heaven's Gate incident became a catalyst for discussions around freedom of religion and the state's responsibility to protect its citizens. Furthermore, the group's belief in the existence of extraterrestrial life has found takers in modern society. The demand for transparency around unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, has gained significant traction, leading to increased pressure on governments worldwide to declassify their UFO-related files. Though the Heaven's Gate cult ended in tragedy, Its influence continues to permeate various aspects of our culture and society. Their intriguing blend of religion, science fiction, and apocalyptic vision continues to captivate and serve as a grim reminder of the power of belief and the potential dangers of extreme devotion. As we delve further into the enigmatic world of Heaven's Gate, it's impossible to ignore some of the more radical theories that have emerged over the years, each as fascinating as the other. These speculations range from suggestions of occult rituals and mind control to more extreme suggestions of extraterrestrial origins and mass manipulation. One of the more pervasive theories suggests that Heaven's Gate was not simply a religious cult, but rather a group deeply entrenched in occult practices, using symbology and rituals to communicate with extraterrestrial entities. Critics point to the group's adoption of the Hale-Bopp comet as a sign from the heavens, and the use of the Away Team patch, a nod to the Star Trek series, which often involved contact with alien species, as evidence of these occult practices. On the other hand, a more sinister theory suggests that the group was subjected to some form of mind control or brainwashing. This theory is based on the uniformity of the members' actions, from their matching attire and haircuts to their synchronized suicide. Some theorists suggest that a form of psychological manipulation, perhaps even hypnosis, might have been employed to ensure such a high level of compliance and commitment to the group's extreme beliefs. Then, there's the theory that the group was not just a cult, but a social experiment gone awry, designed to test the limits of human susceptibility to mass manipulation. The idea here is that the group leaders, or perhaps even external forces, used the cult to explore how far individuals would go when subjected to extreme ideological indoctrination. The tragic end of the Heaven's Gate members is seen as a horrific confirmation of the power of mass manipulation. Perhaps the most outlandish theory is that the group was indeed in contact with extraterrestrial beings, or perhaps even themselves extraterrestrial in origin. Some proponents of this theory argue that the group's doctrine was too detailed and complex to be purely fictional, and suggest that the leaders may have had direct contact with otherworldly entities. They point to the group's belief in the existence of a higher evolutionary level above human, and the conviction that they would be taken to this level by a spacecraft as potential evidence of this extraterrestrial contact. These theories, as extreme as they may be, underscore the enduring fascination with Heaven's Gate and the lengths to which people are willing to go in their quest for understanding. They highlight the myriad of ways in which this tragic event has been interpreted and reinterpreted, each theory adding another layer to the complex tapestry of Heaven's Gate. As we draw to the close of our exploration into the Heaven's Gate cult, we find ourselves left with more questions than answers. Despite the wealth of information available, the full extent of the group's beliefs and practices remains shrouded in mystery. The psychological makeup of the members, the exact nature of the doctrines they followed, and the motivations of the group's leaders are still subjects of speculation and debate. While we know that 39 people willingly embraced death in the belief that they were ascending to a higher plane of existence, we don't fully understand what led them to this extreme act. What were the specific psychological mechanisms at play that made such a drastic course of action not just conceivable, but desirable? The role of the group's leaders, Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles, in shaping the cult's beliefs and practices is another area of persistent uncertainty. Were they genuinely convinced of the doctrines they preached? Or were they deliberately manipulating their followers for some unknown purpose? If they were indeed sincere in their beliefs, where did these beliefs originate, and how did they evolve? The question of external influence is another lingering mystery. Were there outside entities or individuals who played a role in the group's formation and development? Were there hidden powers at work shaping the group's destiny in ways we can't comprehend? Further, The possibility of extraterrestrial involvement, as outlandish as it may sound, cannot be entirely ruled out. In a universe as vast and complex as ours, who can say with certainty what possibilities exist? The group's detailed and intricate belief system, centered around the existence of a higher evolutionary level and the arrival of a spacecraft to transport them to this level, could be interpreted as evidence of contact with otherworldly beings. In the absence of definitive answers, we are left to make sense of the Heaven's Gate tragedy in our own ways. Whether we see it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked belief, a testament to the power of manipulation, or a glimpse into the unknown, the story of Heaven's Gate continues to captivate and perplex. And so, as we conclude our journey into the world of Heaven's Gate, we are left not with closure, but with a sense of profound mystery. The full truth of this tragic event may never be known, and perhaps that is what makes it so compelling. The story of Heaven's Gate serves as a stark reminder of the depths of the human desire for understanding, the lengths to which we will go in pursuit of enlightenment, and the potentially tragic consequences of blind faith. In the end, perhaps the most profound lesson we can draw from Heaven's Gate is a simple one. The search for answers is a journey, not a destination. And that journey, as the members of Heaven's Gate discovered in the most tragic of ways, can sometimes lead to paths we never expected. Thanks for listening. This has been Cults and Secret Societies. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you'd like to support the show, subscribe to the Forbidden Knowledge Network on Patreon. Subscribe now.